Here. Took me a minute, but. Okay, roll call. We did adoption agenda.
Move to adopt?
Brooks, Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, item number 4, presentation 4.1, recommendation for fiscal year 2022 budget. Marcella.
Is this yours?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, we'll run through the proposed 22 budget. And so we'll start out with the current adopted financial policies. And we've not talked about these for a while, but I thought I'd bring it back to your attention that the operating expenditures are not to exceed the operating revenues, plus 50% of the unencumbered balances, or less any deficit estimate for the beginning of the budget year. It also requires a general fund
Hang on just a second.
cash balance reserve of 22% of the general fund expenditures. So for fiscal year 22, that is approximately $2.4 million.
Yeah, you come
Technical
on.
difficulty.
Go ahead.
And so that's kind of where we're going to start this evening. Maybe. Does this work?
Is it on?
Thank you. So we'll talk a little bit about where we are right at the moment for fiscal year 21. So when we look at the total of all the funds, and we've talked about the different funds at different times, throughout the budget season. But just remember that the fiscal year 21 budget was adopted with $34,221,778, and expenditures were adopted at $35,079,818 for a deficit of $858,040. So that was adopted as amended when we amended the budget at mid-year. Actuals to date, as of 7/31, shows $22,434,919 collected, $18,069,769 spent, for $4,365,150 to the good. That looks like a really great number. However, there's all kinds of debt service that gets paid out in September, along with significant capital expenditures, because those capital contracts were just let for June and July. And so you'll have those expenditures will come out before we end up the year. So we will end up the year hopefully into a positive balance and not dig completely into the negative, because the negative also includes our depreciation expense for WPC. And we're anticipated to get the American Relief Plan monies here sometime in the middle of August. That application process needs to be completed and finished for the city to receive their monies. And so the anticipation, because the state treasurer and administration office has advised that they will start distributing that towards the middle of this month, so sometime in the next couple of weeks. We're going to designate a fund specifically for that, because there's some significant reporting requirements from the federal treasury to report back on.
Is that the first batch of money?
Excuse me, yes. So recall that when that was passed, they were going to do half in 21 and the other half in 22. And everything has to be committed to by 24, December of 24, and everything has to be expended and paid out and reported out back to the treasury by 26. And so that's the timeline on that. And so you've got more coming on that information for the American Rescue Relief Plan. So you'll hear more and more about that.
Okay, I maybe phrased it wrong. Is this the 3.7?
Correct.
Okay, and then the next batch is
Well, you get 1.8 this year
Right,
and then 1.8 next year.
okay, all right,
So you get a total of 3.7
okay.
combined. So actual expenditures are down compared to budgeted expenses for July 31st of 21 because of the debt service and the capital that I just outlined some of that. So the 22 proposed budget for all funds is currently projected at $39,083,050. Expenditures are at $41,981,748 for a difference of $2,898,695. And again, that deficit is because of the depreciation expenses and the capital outlay and principal balance that we have budgeted in the water pollution control account. So that's, $2,784,000 is those combinations, because you've got over $1 million in principal payments that come out of WPC. You've got nearly $2 million in depreciation expense. And then there's also some capital that we'll talk about here in a minute for WPC. So the remaining combination is general fund, parks, arts commission, and the self-insurance fund for, and general fund is specifically a deficit of $299,010. So we started out at over $600,000 or better when this was all said and done, and the department divisions have gone through and cut expenses for general fund. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So a little history. General fund budget has typically been adopted as a expense to, or a use of reserves. And a lot of that is because in prior years that money has come through, so like, for example, fiscal year 2019 was originally adopted to use $419,679 in reserve money. And we actually ended the year in like $39,000 to the good. And so fiscal year 20 was adopted at a deficit of $629,735. And because of the CARES Act money and the furloughs and the cut expenses and stuff in fiscal year 20, we come out with a positive balance again. Fiscal year 21 was adopted at, original budget was adopted at $607,120. It was amended, and because of the CARES Act and because we were anticipating general fund collecting that American Relief money, so it had a positive balance when it was amended. And right now, the anticipation is that that will at least come out pretty close to even as we finish out fiscal year 21 without the American Relief plan monies in it. Fiscal year 22 is mentioned as a revenue of $10,406,370 and an expense of $10,705,380 with a deficit of $299,010. So we've managed to, budget to use reserves, and a lot of times budget was adopted as an all-in, so we were gonna have all the positions filled. We were gonna, make sure everybody stayed for a full year. There's been all kinds of moving parts, as you all are very well aware, that as we go through the year, those change on a rapid basis. And we've come out in a positive manner in the last 3 years. Questions?
So this budget, would it include if we were to fill positions or just to sustain the current positions we have?
So for fiscal year 22, we've have planned to fill those positions that we know that we can fill in a different timeline. So I'll pick on police, for example, because they're down the most staff members. And so we've looked at that, and to get a more true, realistic picture to plan, all 8 of those officers cannot be filled between now and October 1st, or as October 1, the chances of them being, feet on the ground is not likely. However, they will most likely be here towards fall, towards spring and early summer. So we've planned for that. Instead of planning a whole 12 months for those salary on those open positions, we planned for, maybe just a quarter of it, And we can, again, it's a budget, so it's a plan, and it can be amended, so if we come through and they've got several officers that are ready to go, they're certified, they can hit the ground running, then Chief, and Andy will put together all of those, and get people in those seats as fast as we can. And we can amend things as that starts to happen. But right now, that doesn't look very likely. So we're going to know with what we've got in the academy now, when the academy starts again, and how many people are typically have been in that since we started that program. So that's just an example. So we've looked at that, maybe same way with the fire chief. Fire chief is not likely to be in seat on October 1, but probably January 1. So instead of a full 12 months of salary, we've just done 9 months of salary. So yes, we planned for those positions to be filled, but instead of planning a full 12 months, which is what's been done in the past, we looked at it more as to when we think these are gonna happen, and to get a more realistic number and closer to our goal of a truly balanced budget as well.
And that includes the competitive wages that we talked about
Yes.
last time? Okay,
Exactly.
I just wanted to make sure. Fine.
So those plans are in there, and again, as we see that those need to be changed, or, we get them honed in and know exactly what those are, there may be an amendment towards first quarter of fiscal year instead of wait until halfway through, so we'll look at that as that starts to take place more.
Okay.
But yeah, the raises are in there, the competitive pieces are in there, so all that you've heard, in that personnel discussion is a part of this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So we talked a little bit about cash balance. So we've got some restricted funds, and these are restricted by council. They're not restricted by an outside entity. So we don't have somebody else come along and saying, you have to do this. So you've got a total of $546,134 in restricted monies. The traffic signal reimbursement was one of the big pieces on McGuire, and the business park money, and we're going to use some of that money, I think, to do the Hawthorne sign and some of the things at Hawthorne. And so those numbers have not been reduced yet to account for all of that, because that money has not been spent. So that those numbers are true numbers as of July 31st. The 21 restricted reserve is at 22% of the 21 general fund expenditures, is $2,370,773, and the difference is $2,686,500. So we have a total beginning balance of $5,603,407. So that's cash, available if we need to, if something were to happen and everything, all the revenue stops. We've got money that we can keep police and fire and staff, going for a period of time, not a long period of time, but a period of time, because we watched Joplin, and some of that happened. And so we kind of plan a little bit of that going forward. And it's part of the process that the new recommendations for cash balance reserve is no longer 22%, it's closer to 50%. So as we see we can do that, we will amend those financial policies to allow for that extra cash reserve available. So again, the fiscal year 22 proposed budget has revenues of $10,406,000. So we'll just go through that. And expenditures of $10,528,770. The other uses is $184,510, which is the Hawthorne debt payment. So currently we still have to make up that NID debt payment because it's short of revenue, and also includes the street sweeper and the police department RMS software leases, is that $184,000 basically debt payment the general fund has to pay at this time. The fiscal year 22 budgeted revenues show a 3.4% decrease from the budgeted 21 numbers. Again, that is without the American Relief Plan monies included. The majority of that is in our franchise fees. So fiscal year 22 is currently funded with basically maintenance budget. There's not any capital in the general fund. It includes a 20% increase in medical coverage. It includes the 3% increase in salaries and the PTO payout that Councilman Bentley asked about a while ago. It uses $4,000 of the cemetery donations for computer and software, which allows the cemetery to function a little more efficiently. And then the community funding that was presented to council earlier was $167,800. So the community investment plan, it shows a total of projected cash balance as of 9/30/20, so where we started out for 21 at $842,705 combined between transportation and half-cent sales tax. So the estimated revenues, transportation is $736,000 and half-cent sales tax is $1.9 million for a total of $2,712,000. So your 21 estimated available funding was $1,169,080 for transportation and $2,385,625 for the half-cent sales tax. There's no debt associated with transportation. However, there is debt on the COPs for the half-cent sales tax. So for 21, that is $1,434,240. So the other expenditures for transportation includes the overlay project and some curb and sidewalk at $736,000, and the half-cent sales tax was $253,150. So again, those balances projected for 9/30/21, beginning balances as we start 22 is $433,080 and $698,235 for over $1.13 million in combination for the community investment plan. The 22 investment plan for transportation includes the annual street maintenance program of $682,000, the curb and sidewalk program at $80,000, the towable message boards and the traffic control monitoring between those two is $57,000, and then the upgrade to the major street plan engineering costs at $100,000. The half-cent sales tax has the certificate of participation debt, which is $1.368225. Says 2 police vehicles at $100,000, the public works equipment at $153,000, the building repairs and improvements for fire in this building at $239,000, and the police computer upgrades at $96,000. Again, this is projected monies, and remember, as we talked about the half-cent sales tax, that tax expires in December of 25, and this year is the first year that we've actually had planned equipment and repair purchases, improvements to our buildings budgeted out of that in an effort to build the monies available in general fund and show that general fund is just generating enough revenue to cover operations and it does not cover capital expenditures. The general obligation bonds, you'll hear more about that this evening at a regular council meeting, but the street portion of the 217 issue is scheduled to retire in 2022. And then the voters approved the $17 million in April, which renewed the debt service levy at 59 cents. And today we issued $5 million with the remaining $12 million to be issued probably about the same time in 2022. So that process took place this morning at 10 a.m. And again, you'll hear more as you approve that ordinance this evening on the issuance for that to complete the McGuire Street projects and more as we get approval of grant funding and all that good stuff that we're looking forward to. The neighborhood improvement district. So Russell Avenue was included in this and it paid off in fiscal year 21 last fall. And then the remaining revenue is estimated at about $64,000 a year, which leaves about $100,000 a year that general fund has been picking up with that district at this point in time, with another sale of a lot or something else happening up in the Hawthorne area. That will give some relief to general fund as that district generates enough revenue to meet that debt payment. We talked a little bit about water pollution control, and you'll hear more about water pollution control as we do rate studies and evaluations for that process. But the 22 budget includes the SBR replacement that you've heard Administrator Doolin speak of at 590,000, the SCADA component at 675,000, which we split that in half. We really didn't want to have to do that, but that was something that we felt like there was the only way we could do that. And then the I&I relining project at 149,000. So council's direction is what we're requesting tonight to make sure that you're comfortable with this. As it's been presented, you'll get more details with first reading and see the total revenue numbers for each fund and the total expenditures for each fund at the 23rd council session. The tax levy, will tell you, right, that the tax levy, because 2021 is a reassessment year, and in the state of Missouri, as assessments go up, you can't collect the extra taxes on that, so they make you turn your levy backwards. And so the actual tax levy will go down a little bit. I don't remember exact numbers, but it goes from like 36 cents to like 35.5 cents. It's not a lot, but it does. You'll see that roll back as we can only collect the consumer price index and the new construction that happens for extra taxes as we go forward. So those will be asked of you at the 23rd session to do at first and second reading, because they have to be sent back to the county as certified levies to be set and to the state auditor's office by the 1st of September. So is there something that we missed, something you want to see included, more information? It's all yours.
No, the only question I have, if I remember right, you said 3% here on salaries. It was 3.4 at the last. Did you round down?
So, okay, so you'll see the proposal for the salary ranges. So the ranges for the salaries give you an opportunity, to change 3.4%. That makes up the consumer price index for the last 2 years.
Correct.
Okay, so
And so the average for all the salaries, because the personnel manual says that you're in, the top section of those performance reviews, you get a 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, so the average, when you put all those together, you generally end up with about a 3% increase across the board. Because somebody gets a 5 and somebody else gets, maybe a 2.5 or something along those lines is how that works.
Okay, thank you.
It does include a 20% increase on the medical, and I believe that Greg is working with our brokers and trying to get that number as a good hard number as we go forward, and are hoping that number doesn't go up, but it could.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Questions, comments?
I'm good.
Nothing else, then I'm gonna adjourn. We're good?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Brooks,
Here.
Kushner,
Here.
Lund,
Here.
Bentley,
Here.
Holmberg.
Okay, item 3, approval of city council minutes. 3.1, city council minutes, July 26, 21.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, item 3.2, city council study session, August 3rd, 2021.
Move to approve.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. All right, item number 4, adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay, item 5, recognition, 5.1. Johnny Bueller, winner of the 83rd All-American Soapbox Derby local stock. Johnny and family, you come forward. So to update everyone, I received an email from Johnny's mom, and she was excited about an activity her son had done and wanted to share it with the mayor. And so I invited the family to city council to share with everybody. So Johnny, on behalf of citizens of Warrensburg, Warrensburg City staff, and Warrensburg City Council, would like to present you a certificate of recognition for Soapbox Derby Local World Championship. They'll tell you a little more. Johnny is the youngest person in history to win this. So Warrensburg rocks. And then we also have a medallion. And so that's there. Would you like to say a little bit to, you were able to talk to me, but tell
Yeah,
council and staff
Absolutely.
what we're doing?
First of all, thanks for having us. We appreciate it so much. Last, about 2 weeks ago, the All-American Soapbox Derby was held in Akron, Ohio. It's kind of the beginning and where it all began back in 1934. And Johnny won the right to race there when he won a local race in Kansas City back in early June. And so he raced in Akron, Ohio, which is the World Championship. And in his division, there's 3 divisions. He's in the youngest division, and he happened to win it just by slimmest of margins over another world champion he beat on the way to get there, and he became the youngest at age 8 to have won. And in 83 years of it since 1934, minus a few years for World War II and whatnot. But so we're super proud of him. He's going to be in 4th grade this year at Sterling. And we're back to racing, in fact, this weekend in Kansas City. He got a $3,000 scholarship from them. They took his car and hung it in their Hall of Fame. So we had to come up with a new car, build another one.
No, that's disaster.
But that's all right. You know, that's a loss that we'll take. So they took the car and it'll be hanging there for a long, long time, which is really cool. Our family, we're 3rd generation. My father raced in the 1950s there, and then my sister and I did in the 1980s, and my other son Matthew did, and now we got Johnny. So it's a pretty special thing. Only the 3rd champ from Kansas City ever to have won there, and only the 5th from Missouri to ever have won in Akron. So it's a pretty special deal to claim a win, especially when he's 9 now, by the way, but early birthday present, I guess. Yeah. So hold on to that there, bud. So. But his composure and his driving and everything was super cool. There was an article in the Warrensburg paper last week that kind of hit a lot of the high notes. So it was pretty cool. Isn't that right, bud? Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, presentation, item number 6. 6.1, homeless trends in community, presented by Erica Collins and Melissa Werner from Journey Home.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. It's good to be here with council once more. Mayor, we appreciate the time, and special thanks to Danielle Dillon who invited us on this evening. And we're here to talk a little bit about the homelessness trends in our community and what that means to us as a community. And so we might ask ourselves exactly who are the homeless in our community? And what leads to homelessness. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. And we're going to talk about the ever-growing problem that homelessness presents, not only to our community at large, but to our businesses and to our economic situation here in our city. And then before we leave this evening, we'd like to maybe stimulate your minds to start thinking about some solutions and some things that we have found that have worked. Some things that we're doing that we know helps reduce those barriers and to help people get to permanent housing, which looks different for each individual. So first, we're just going to kind of talk about who we're looking at and what leads to homelessness. And so in our community, there was a time when I could tell you, so I'm a lifer, and there was a time that I could tell you that I knew pretty much everybody that was homeless. I could tell you who they were by name, kind of where they would be, where you could find them at any given point in time during the day or the evening in our city. That is not the case now. And I'm very connected, and I still am very connected to a lot of individuals who are unsheltered, but I don't know them all. Our homelessness numbers have grown exponentially. I don't have to tell you that. I think that you guys have all heard either from your neighbors or from business owners that this is a growing problem. And so there are several things that lead people to homelessness. So as we look at, who are these individuals and where are they coming from? Some of these individuals are from right here in our very own city. And as we are going through a pandemic and tough times, we find that people who are working so aren't able to keep up, maybe they've been laid off temporarily for a period of time from their job because of COVID or having to quarantine. There's lots of things that play into individuals being homeless at this point. One of the things that we recognize is that all of the individuals who are in our community are not natural to our community, meaning that they didn't grow up here, they haven't lived here for a period of time. And one of the trends that happens is when any community opens a shelter, then it becomes kind of a magnet for other places that don't have them. And so thinking about that, we have interacted with individuals who have literally been bused here from other places. Matter of fact, I had an in-depth conversation with a gentleman not long ago who was at a hospital, a mental health hospital about an hour away. When they got ready for his discharge, he told them that he wanted to go someplace different than he had been. He wanted to start a new life. So they put him in a vehicle and they started driving. They didn't tell him until he was almost here where he was going. He had never even heard of Warrensburg, Missouri before. And without calling ahead to make any type of arrangements, this individual was dropped off in our community. He slept on the street for a week before he was finally able to connect with someone that got him to appropriate resources so that he could become housed. He is not unique. This is happening more and more in our city. We are having individuals dropped off from neighboring towns and even cities as far away as St. Louis, Missouri. That's happened recently. So I'm going to let Melissa talk a little bit about, the barriers to housing and how it presents itself in our community.
Absolutely, thank you, Erica. Yeah, some of the barriers to just the homelessness would be mental health challenges. We are working really diligently to try to assist them with resources to be able to connect them
so they can get help with that. But also addictions. And sometimes we've seen individuals come into our program that they have had an eviction or they've had some other type of financial difficulty and they're unable to get housing here. And, at that point, they were homeless, living in a car, driving back and forth to work. So there's all kinds of different barriers. It's not simply just an individual that maybe doesn't want to get a job. Most of our individuals have jobs. They are working. They're trying to be productive. They're trying to start a new life. Obviously, we do have some new individuals that people are seeing that have not gotten that opportunity or have not taken up that opportunity yet. But those barriers are not just simply that someone doesn't want a job. Other things play a role in that. And connecting them to appropriate resources is something that we hope to really help them with to just further their endeavor if they do want to become sustainably housed.
I reached out to Carrie Ewing, who is the director at our food center here in town, and she shared with me that in the month of July, there were 88 visits to the mini mart. The mini mart is a section inside of our food center that is reserved for our homeless population. 88 visits to that. That was double the amount of visits in the month of June. Now, that they can go 3 times a week, so maybe people just have a little more access, or people chose to utilize it more. And so at first that number wasn't too alarming to me. However, she went on to share that one to 3 people on average per week new are coming into the food center and are homeless. And so when you do that math, that adds up really quickly. And so she shared with me that in the month of July, there were 10 new homeless individuals who had come in to utilize the food center. And so what does that mean for us? And who are these individuals? These aren't, as Melissa mentioned, just individuals who are unemployed, but we have men and we have women, we have families that are homeless. At Journey Home, we have sheltered families, whole families that have been living in their car, or that have been living in the park, or been doubled up with someone else and then have been asked to leave. Families that have been evicted from their homes for various reasons, or they had to relocate here or chose to relocate here for better opportunities as far as jobs are concerned. But then when they got here, they faced a barrier of not having housing because maybe where they lived, they had an eviction or they had a credit score that did not allow them to rent here in town. Also, the lack of affordable housing for individuals is a big issue here in our city right now. So we worked with some individuals where both people have professional careers, and because of their credit score, they were unable to get housing, in our city. So something else for us to consider as we're taking a look at who are we serving and who is the face of homelessness in our city. So we know that as the numbers grow, that we're seeing more challenges as we are seeing more people who are unhoused, who are unemployed, and who are not connected to resources such as maybe substance abuse counseling or mental health treatment. And so one of the things that we have done recently is have some conversations. We've had conversations with some of our leaders here in town about the nuisance that's downtown, because that's kind of what it's become. People are really concerned. Some people are shying away from the downtown area, especially during the day. And that has an impact on our businesses. And we understand that. And we understand that there has to be a solution for that, because most certainly our business owners are very compassionate and understanding and kind, but they don't always encounter individuals who respond likewise. And so then that becomes a problem for them as they're trying to run a business, and as patrons are trying to come in and to enjoy the services that are being provided. Mental health plays a huge role, and you've heard us mention mental health a couple of times. And when we think about the safety of our community, we have to take a look at the mental health of the individuals who are homeless in our community. And not that those individuals might pose an immediate threat and the only threat, but we also worry about the danger to those individuals. If those individuals are on the street without care and we're not able to identify them readily, then they too are at risk of being in danger of things happening to them. The victims of crime themselves, things happening to them, not having adequate care. It's very hot right now. So we are running into people, we're getting calls sometimes where people are passed out from heat exhaustion or from being dehydrated. And so that becomes a big concern for us as we try to care for individuals who might find themselves in that circumstance. And of course, we mentioned already that we have some outside entities that are bringing individuals into our community. And it's alarming enough when you have family members of people bringing them in and just dropping them off. But what's more alarming is sometimes even the legal system is causing that to happen. At St. Joe, at Jefferson City, at Cameron, at those institutions where individuals are staying at Department of Corrections, they have a dollar amount they give people. And every individual who leaves is supposed to have a home plan. They're supposed to know where they're going. They're supposed to be connecting those individuals so that they can do what they need to do. But what's happening is they're giving them a bus ticket that will only get them so far. And most of the time, Warrensburg is so far. And so then you have individuals who are wandering around, not knowing anybody here necessarily, not knowing where to go or what to do. And we've been really fortunate that we've been able to connect some of those individuals. We've worked with people. I live in Tennessee. I've got family there who, I could just get there. And so we've been able to work with some entities here. We've been able to buy some bus tickets and train tickets and help people to get to their final destination, to connect with their support system. But that's not always the case. And we don't always see those people. Most people don't wear a sign around their neck that says, I just got out of DOC, somebody told me what to do. And so that is another population that we are trying to work to help. And finally, hospitals. And, hospitals, again, typically they have social workers who should be connecting individuals with someplace to go. But when they're discharged, if they have nowhere to go, then they are no longer the concern of the hospital. And sometimes this is even mental health hospitals that will literally load people up and just drop them off at a place where they heard there's a shelter. And so we really have to think about how to partner with those places so that we're better able to manage. And I don't know that there's a perfect solution to that. If I had it, we'd be putting it in place. It's a challenge. And so this is the face of homelessness in our community. And this is the kind of barriers, and these are the kinds of challenges that we're dealing with. And so there are some solutions, though. We're not without hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a way to address the homeless situation in our community. And I will say that I am extremely proud to live in this community where people do care. If you are on Facebook and you're paying attention, there's constantly conversations about where people can go that are needing help, that are homeless, what kind of resources are available. You'll hear stories about how someone, put food in the local box that you see, or the share boxes, or they actually gave someone money. But sometimes we do things that we think are helping, and they're really hurting individuals who are needing to be connected with resources. And so resources are really limited. We work with the majority of the people. I would say probably about 70% of the individuals that we encounter that are homeless also have some type of mental health or addiction issue that they're trying to work through. And we have some great facilities here in our community, but they can only do so much. And then there's additional barriers. A lot of those individuals don't have enough money to go to those appointments. They don't have Medicaid or other insurance so they can get to those appointments. So then that becomes a barrier that we have to work through as well. And the same thing goes for once they get to those appointments and maybe they're prescribed medication, well then how do they pay for the medication? And so one of the solutions is definitely to support our resources, to support our local resources. And Missouri has passed Medicaid expansion, what, regardless of how people feel about that politically, it's a done deal now. And if we could rally behind that, that is a saving grace for a lot of our folks who, if they could just get to a doctor, they could just get on the right medication, they become stabilized and they're able to get back to work. They're able to be permanently housed. They're stable and they're able to move on. And so another resource that is not necessarily readily available to people is, where do you go when you need, to find a job? And we do have some really good resources here. I love that the city has, a resource. We send people, we use it all the time. Hey, let's go look and see what jobs are available. Let's go around town and see what's available. But for individuals who are needing maybe to create resumes or to file for employment, to look for unemployment, and that's a barrier. And sometimes people come and they don't have birth certificates or social security cards or photo ID. Getting a hold of those, and again, is one of those things that we work through that and we get it done. We get really creative and we're able to make it happen. But when the nearest social security office is 30 minutes away and you're trying to figure out how you're going to be able to get Joe's stuff today, right now, so that he can get to work or so that he can make that next step, some things that we have to think about. So I'm going to let Melissa talk a little bit about how we are addressing the issue here in our community and what that means for the individuals that we serve, and then we'll wrap up.
Absolutely. Yes, so at Journey Home, one of the things that we endeavored to provide was wraparound services to really help these individuals. We understand that just having a place to sleep is not necessarily everything that we can do for them to actually help them become productive. These individuals, like Eric had said, they don't have a lot of information regarding themselves to be able to get jobs. So we do help them get birth certificates and IDs and those types of things. But one of the things we really try to do is we try to connect with the resources that are already doing those things. Journey Home really tries to do in-house case management. We have case managers that are there with the people. We meet with them weekly. And by doing that, they leave with a to-do list and connection points to go to certain entities that are already doing those things well, which gives them another support system, another resource. So a lot of our individuals, they're very connected to Salvation Army. Karen has helped many people get birth certificates and put down different deposits and that type of thing. So our goal is not to do everything in-house because it's bigger than what we are, and we understand that. But our goal is to really rally around those locations that are doing things really well, and connecting those people further to those resources. And we endeavor to provide a program for them to where we follow them for a year, doing that case management weekly. We have one of our really exciting things that we have done, or that we've helped those individuals accomplish, because they've actually done a lot of the work. They've done that to-do list and they've made those connections. So far, since I'd say it was July, our first person was housed in July of 2020. Since July of 2020, up to date, we've housed 28 people, and 2 more that will be housed in the next 2 weeks. So for a total of 30. And we're really proud of that, because a little bit of support and wrapping around those resources and continuing that case management, even after they're housed, we're hoping will really help them keep that sustainability to where they're able to stay in that situation and be able to make those decisions to continue in that situation. So that's one of the goals that we endeavor through that case management. Also, they gain that support system, and I know I spoke about that, but sometimes having that community that really connects with them and helps them is really important. Many of the people that we see, they have broken all contact with relatives and friendships. And largely, there have been decisions that they've made that maybe they've been cut out or whatever, but having that support system, helping them glean from other people that are cheering them on, rallying them on, and helping them think about the next step is really important. A lot of our individuals, if you take them off the streets and place them in a home, that's not going to help them much unless you have someone there to help them through that process. Learning those social skills to get back into the community, to go to job interviews, to even do basic things like learning how to keep your house clean and learning how to buy appropriate things for cooking meals. Those types of things are all things that we've encountered with our individuals. Now, there are other people, like Erica said, that are working jobs and have other barriers such as evictions or different things on their record that's preventing them from that housing. But many of our people are literally coming off the street and they're going into housing, which is why we really endeavor to follow them through that, to help them through that, to provide the resources that they need, if not in-house, to really rally around them in the community, to really get them to where they need to go to get those resources and needs met.
So we're really excited because we're going to have opportunity in the next couple of days to meet with more individuals in our city, business leaders and such, and to kind of talk about what it is that they're concerned about, what it is that they would like to see happen, but more importantly, how they want to contribute. One of the things that we will be doing is hosting a town hall meeting so that we can sit down together and have these conversations, because there is a lot of concern and we do understand that and we want to be part of that solution. I mentioned before that education is a big piece. This is a very compassionate that we live in, and people are wanting to help and do things, but we would like to show people that there's a systematic and a better way to do things than taking people home with you. I've got a couple of calls that they picked up a homeless person on the street and like, oh, I've got this person in my house. And so what do I do next? Oh, you call me first before you take them home. And that's just because a lot of people have barriers, and we have the experience to work through those barriers that everybody might not. They just have a big heart and they want to do the right thing. And we definitely understand that. We applaud that. And we just want to help people to channel their energy and their resources in the right direction so that more people are helped in a better way. I do want to say that there are some great systems in place in our city right now that are helping. Melissa mentioned the Salvation Army, I mentioned the Food Center, Missouri Valley and Compass and those places. And I'll share this quick story with you and then we'll have our seats. Thank you for your patience. Had an individual who someone had taken her home and noticed that maybe she wasn't doing so well, gave me a call. We connected with her. And a longer story short, the individual had some warrants and ended up at the jail and was there for a couple of days. And she was visited via televideo so that they could go ahead and try to work through her situation. And we got a call from Judge Hall's office and just asking some questions because, and what his staff said to me was, he wants to make the best decision that he can for her. Because he recognized that this young woman has some barriers that were beyond her legal issues. And that spoke volumes to me about where our priorities are in the city, which I think are absolutely in the right place. It spoke volumes to us about the compassion that we have for people who are less fortunate or struggling or might have these barriers that are leading to their homelessness, their legal issues and other things. But more so that they were willing to reach out and to partner and to gain information so that a very good decision can be made for this person who had found themselves in our community. And so we want to continue to foster that sense of relationship and that sense of cohesiveness so that we are working very solidly together so that we are always making the best decisions for the citizens of our city. Thank you so much for having us. Please watch for information concerning the town hall meeting as people come together to discuss homelessness. And if you have any questions, please most certainly reach out to Melissa or myself.
Well, that was, at least I have a question, maybe some others do too. When is the town hall and the businesses you're having?
Sure. So we have not set the date for that. We will be meeting with Ms. Dillon, and so we're going to sit down with her and kind of have some conversations, but we will make sure that's widely publicized when we set the date for that.
Okay.
And so it will definitely be open to the community. So anybody who wants to come and have the conversation, all the decisions invited, everybody will certainly be invited to come join in that conversation. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question on mine. I'm glad that you're gonna have town hall and be able to corporately sit down and talk about that. On an individual basis, you talked about some of the challenges that you have. On an individual basis, if somebody wanted to help, what is the best thing that they could do?
I'm so glad that you have. So definitely try to connect people with us or with the other helping agencies that are already helping. Most certainly, Compass Helping County with, Journey Home, connecting there. Definitely putting your time and your resources. So we are always looking for volunteers because we have emergency shelters and we have transitional housing that we help people go to permanent housing. So donations of things like furniture that you're not using in your house anymore, or bedding, because we are helping people move into transition housing and then on to permanent housing. And of course, money. Money answers all things. And so if an individual wanted to send a check, because at Journey Home, for example, we know that it takes about $200 per bed in our facility per month to make sure that individuals have services. And that is with the house only being open from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. And so definitely during the day, we anticipate that people are either working or looking for work or doing the other things on their to-do list. But, on the weekends, that's not so much the case. So we definitely try to connect them with volunteer resources, volunteer opportunities and things like that. And so that's another thing that individuals can do. If there's volunteer opportunities and, and we work with them so that they're ready for those opportunities, but that's another way to help people to, boost their skills and to keep them productive and to, be actively engaged in the community in a positive way. Absolutely. Welcome. Thank you for asking. Any other questions?
Question? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, first reading only ordinance. First reading, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 28 regarding group homes, presented by Doug Harris, City Attorney.
So, Mayor, members of council, this ordinance was initially enacted in 2018. Over the course of the last 3 years, the city's first responders have forged a variety of relationships, both locally and at the state level, with regulatory agencies that oversee these agencies' licenses, their contracts for service, and in forming those connections, we have identified, I think, more effective resources for addressing issues that may face individuals with disabilities within our community and making sure that they're getting the support that they need to be integrated citizens in our community. And so what we are proposing is a revision of a couple of sections in Article 2 of Chapter 28 that deal with those facilities and are switching to a collaborative approach where we are providing information to those other agencies. And so be happy to answer any questions, but that is what we have identified as the most successful process. And so that's what we're proposing be put into the ordinances now.
Questions? Okay, we'll move on to 7.2, first reading of an ordinance authorizing contract for annual audit services. For the city manager and city clerk to execute a contract with KPM CPAs to provide an annual financial audit report beginning with year ending September 30th, 2021, presented by Marcella.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is the request to enter into the contractor audit services. We did a request for proposal and received or sent out 7 letters specifically to audit firms. We received 5 responses and 3 specific formal proposals to complete that process. It was posted on the website. It was posted in the paper to do this. There was 3 of us, Mr. Mason Floyd, Rachel Denfeld and myself did a score process, and I provided you the scoring sheets with the first reading of this ordinance. And we had found KPM has done our audit for a number of years, so there's an existing relationship, was just very helpful. They've incorporated a lot of the electronic versions like last year. We did nearly all of our audit work in via electronic services because we could upload documents to their system in a secure manner for them to review and have questions back and forth. So there was little in-house or in-person field work that was required for the audit. So based on the scoring sheets between the three of us, KPM ended up with the highest score. And so we just recommend that we enter into that contract with them for audit services for a period of actually 3 years. So it's done through an engagement each year, and then an option to renew for the following two process. So I answer any questions.
Okay, no questions. Thank you. We'll move on to 7.3. First reading, an ordinance authorizing the execution agreement between the city of Warrensburg and the Secretary of the Air Force for mutual aid fire services, presented by Doyle Oxley Fires.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, this is an agreement with Whiteman Air Force Base for mutual aid fire services. If we do have a catastrophic event such as Joplin, or they have a problem, we'll just help each other out as best we can. It should be a no fiscal impact at all to us for the mutual aid contract. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Bill. Okay, 7.4, first reading ordinance, an ordinance approving and accepting the final plat of Dyer's Last Stand, a subdivision in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri, located at 115 and 117 West Oak Street, presented by Barr.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is a minor plat. It's a replat of two existing lots, one at 115 West Oak and one at 117 West Oak. It takes those two lots and combines them into one lot, erasing the lot line in between the two. Staff had one condition. There are currently a house on each lot, and in order to stay compliant with codes that only one dwelling unit be present on a lot, one of the houses will have to be torn down prior to the recording of the plat. The applicant understands that. It's indicated their interest is in tearing down the house at 115 West Oak Street. So Planning and Zoning Commission considered this ordinance at their meeting last week and recommended approval with the condition of staff. That condition has been incorporated into the ordinance that you have in front of you concerning eliminating one of the houses. Staff would otherwise recommend approval of the plat as presented and approval of the ordinance. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. No questions. We'll go on to 7.5, first reading. An ordinance approving and accepting the final plat of Park Place subdivision replat, a subdivision in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri, located at 905 and 907 South Holden Street.
Several years ago, the owner of this property replatted and created one very large lot of the property at 905 South Holden Street. At this point in time, he would like to separate that into two lots. One would be a lot that contains the existing multifamily dwelling that's on the property at this time, and that will remain in place. And the other would be the remainder of the land that would be platted into a second lot, also a rather large lot. He does have an intent to develop that in the future, so I can't state for certain that this will be the last plat we see of this area, but at least for now, this is his proposed lot layout. They would have a shared driveway at this time. Again, going forward, that could change into the future as well. Staff has had several revisions, and those have been made. In reviewing those revisions, there was one additional further comment that will require a change to the plat itself. So in the ordinance you have in front of you, that's number 1, concerning the easement dedication statement. And then number 2, 3, and 4 are items that will need to be addressed by the owner going forward, but do not specifically change anything on the plat document. So they're just conditions in the ordinance. Staff would recommend approval of the ordinance as presented. It's consistent with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission at their meeting last week. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? We'll go on to item 8, a first and second reading ordinance. An ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of $5 million principal amount of general obligation bond series of 2021 in the city of Warrensburg, Missouri, and authorizing certain other documents and actions by the city, presented by Marcella.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening we have Sid Douglas from Warrensburg and Todd Goffey from Piper Sandler, oh, sorry. So this morning we went through a competitive bid process, and if I would like to let Todd kind of explain that. I handed out the sheets that show who all was the underwriters that bid on that, and he will run through a quick synopsis of where we landed and the next steps going forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Todd Goffey with Piper Sandler. Many times I still say Piper Jaffrey. It's hard to get Sandler out when I've said Jaffrey for so many years. As we discussed last month, we are moving forward with the $5 million of the total of 17 that was approved by the voters earlier this year. This is the first series of bonds. Will come back. The plan is to come back sometime during 2022 and issue the remainder of the bonds. As Marcella indicated, we did go through a competitive bid process earlier this morning at 10 a.m. and we utilize an electronic bidding platform where underwriting firms from the region, the state, as well as nationally have an opportunity to submit a bid to purchase the city's general obligation bonds. We received 8 bids, as you saw on the summary sheet, that ranged from a low of 1.7% out to a 2.05%. So we were very pleased with the 1.7. Kind of our estimates heading into today was probably more around a 1.8, which is where many of the other bids were kind of centered around that point. But to get a 20-year fixed rate financing at a 1.7% is just phenomenal. I mean, it's as low as rates have been, which I know you all read and see how low rates are, but this is a good example of just how low those rates are. We did go through a bond rating process since we spoke last, and the city's bond rating is a AA-, which was an affirmation of what the previous rating was. That certainly plays into obtaining this low cost of funds. And the analysts at S&P had some very nice things to say about the city and management and financial resources in that rating report. So all that kind of helps and kind of factors into the cost of funds that you see here tonight. So I'll stop there. Sid Douglas is here with Gilmore and Bell that has prepared the bond ordinance. So we'll let him address any legal questions that you might have, and I'll take care of the financial questions.
Doesn't look like we have any questions.
Thank
you
Mayor.
for coming tonight, Joe. We need a motion.
Motion.
Move to pass said ordinance to second reading by title.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
This is an ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance, sale, and delivery of $5 million principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2021 of the city of Warrensburg, Missouri, and authorizing certain other documents and actions by the city. This is for adoption or rejection. Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Okay. Moving on, item 9, other business. Other business, we have appearances of council not listed on the agenda. Okay. On 11, mayoral appointments. I spoke to each of the 2 park folks individually and with the park director, and then the other folks on Children Memorial. I've spoken to them in the past, and so I'd like to appoint these folks to the boards that are here.
Move to approve as presented?
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner.
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes. Miscellaneous matters from the mayor and/or city council.
Nope.
All right, Director of Finance report.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
No questions. City manager report. I did.
I think
She's trying to talk. Hang on, Danielle, we can't hear you.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, I forgot to hit unmute. I apologize. My voice probably still isn't much better, but I don't have anything additional to add to the report that was included in your packet unless any of the directors have something that they would like to share with council.
I would add that we are anticipating census numbers will be released this Thursday, according to a recent press release, for the purposes of redistricting at the state level. And so I think for Warrensburg, that would include just a total place number for the city, within the city limits. My understanding is it will be made available to the public in a format that is not easily digested and will take further extraction. So staff will work on that and get back to you on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got ice cream, right? Come on, I hear you.
Well, it is a busy, busy week in the Burg. So tomorrow is the 200th anniversary of Missouri entering the statehood. And so statewide, everyone is being asked to hold ice cream socials, and our community has come to that. We have a lot of different organizations and businesses that are hosting specials. So if you go to our Facebook page, we've been doing shout outs. We've got Rise that is doing a special 118. Cakery has given us coupons. They're doing a little special that day. Myers Market is also, and then at 4 o'clock, Buckeye Acres is having an event at their farm. So if you can attend that. And then that night at 7:30 at Grover Memorial Park, you're going to find Warrensburg's very own John Kennedy performing. We have ice cream. We are going to have lots of fun. We are including social distancing. We have masks. We'll have hand sanitizer. It'll be a great time, and we'll just celebrate Missouri. We had a blast at the farmers market on Saturday. All ice cream was handed out, and cupcakes and little doggy treats, and we have a poster, a Missouri birthday poster, and so it was signed. We'll also have it tomorrow night, and then after tomorrow night, we're going to have it on display here at City Hall. So we're really excited, and then following that, we're going to get it laminated and sent to the Missouri Bicentennial Coalition. So they're packing everything together to just have a little reminisce. It's not going to go in the time capsule, which was mailed last week. It's not part of that project, but it is part of their project, just celebrating the 200th anniversary. Then on Thursday, we have the governor coming. Missouri Governor Parsons is going to come. He's going to be at the Historical Society from 1:15 to 2, estimating. He'll be kicking off the state fair. And then so he'll be coming from Sedalia. And then he's on his way to Harrisonville for another presentation. But we're going to welcome him, and I think we're going to do a really great job. And the Historical Society, can't thank them enough. Them, the city, Park and Rec, everybody come together to make this happen. The Historical Society is going to do a presentation on Old Drum. And then they're going to give them a tour of the old courthouse. Yes, it is going to be blazing hot. We know that. We are going to have water, and we're going to work on some different things, some tents and stuff like that to make sure everybody's cool. And then we're going to keep everyone's safety at forefront. We're going to have social distancing. We're going to have hand sanitizer. We're going to have masks. So wear masks if you're comfortable. And then we will have water, like I said, and we'll have individually wrapped cookies. So we're going to try to take care of everything. I hope everybody can make it. It will be a very short presentation, but I hope to see everyone out to welcome Governor Parsons to the Burg, because we're really excited about this. Part of his bicentennial tour that he's doing around the state. So he did go to Marshall to see Jim the Wonder Dog. So please share the love and come and see our pup too. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I've got flyers and information about both of them. That's it.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, it looks like we have a closed session. I read
Vote.
that.
Vote to close part of this meeting pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri relating to, 1, legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys.
Brooks,
Yes.
Kushner,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
All right. Move to adjourn.
Now that's it.
You ever hit the gavel whenever you're mayor? Maybe I'll get that chance.